Hey you, how are you guys doing today? I hope you are doing well. I am doing well. The sun is shining. It is a beautiful day. I have the house to myself for the weekend and I am getting so much stuff done. Are you guys like that? Do you guys get more done when there's like nobody in the house? Because I know on those weekends where my kids are out of the house, they're with their dad or with their friends, and Jordan's at work for the day, I get so much done. Let me know. Or are you one of those people that get more done when there's people around because you try to avoid them? I can relate to that too. Anywho, thank you so much for clicking on this video today. Today we are going to talk some trash and I am so excited. So I asked you guys a while ago on Instagram and on my community tab on YouTube to give me all of your controversial plant topics. I told you to tell me what your beef is, whether that be beef about the plant community, about plant care, about plant sales, whatever your planty beef is, we want to talk about it. Now, I will give a little disclaimer before we start this video. This is meant to be a light-hearted, non-serious type video. So I don't want to see hate given to me or given to anyone else that has commented these things. Everybody has their own way of doing things, their own perspective on things. And oh my goodness, it would be such a boring and dull and beige world if everybody had the same opinions on everything. So this is just a fun video. And I'm going to give you my opinions when we read these things. Now, I will also say that I got so many people between Instagram and YouTube, and I had already asked this question a few months ago. I think it was shortly before we moved, so I didn't get around to actually filming the video. So I have a ton of topics that we can go over. So I may actually be able to make this into 2, maybe even 3 videos, but we'll see how this one goes. And if you guys really like it and want to see some more trash talking, then we can go ahead and do 2, maybe even 3 videos. So you guys let me know what you think at the end of this video, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay, so if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. My name is Nikki. This is my channel, Plants, Pots, and Whatnots. And for my GFPs, that's gluttons for punishment, who keep coming back for more. You guys are the best. Thank you so, so much for your ongoing love and support. Just, thank you so much. I got a weird hair feeling thing going on. I got flopping. Nobody likes hair flopping. Okay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started because I have a lot to get through. I have a lot of opinions and apparently you guys do too. So let's check them out. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into these. We have a lot of them. Whew, are you ready? Okay, here's the first one. This is from Tassie Devil 04 on YouTube, and they said, lately I'm finding that what science and the professionals tell me versus what I just feel I need to do for each plant. For example, I've read so many countless articles and book pieces about getting poinsettias to reflower, aka turning red again, and how much of an effort it is, and how you have to literally hide them in a darkened room or a dark box for hours and hours during the day from like late September, and I did none of that. I literally have left my now 1.5 year poinsettia on a windowsill in bright direct light, which they aren't keen on, so I'm told, and didn't move him at all. Deadly, as he's known, turned red anyhow with not a shred of interference from me. This is a really great point. And this is why I think a lot of creators have kind of veered away from making plant-specific type care videos, is because there's so many factors that are involved in how your plant does in your home. And that right there is the main one, how your plant does in your home. And, you know, nobody's home environment is the same. You know, humidity fluctuates, light fluctuates, even the difference between my old house and this house, things have changed so dramatically as far as the conditions in my home. So I've found, even myself, I've had to switch up a little bit of plant care because some plants, you know, weren't doing as well, or some were doing better. And it's just, there's so many different factors that go into it, that giving someone a specific type of way to care for a specific plant, that it's just not like, there's no point. You know what I mean? So anytime you see me talking about plant care, usually you will also hear me say, this is how I do things. This is, you know, the conditions that I have in my home. This is how this plant is thriving or not thriving in my home. This is what I've done. And I think that's really important. So especially for new plant parents, when you're watching videos, TikToks, reading books on plant care, when you see these apps, these are the ones that kill me the most, is those ads for those plant apps that you can like take a picture of a plant. I saw one the other day. If I can find the photos, I'm going to insert them here, because literally I was laughing my ass off, because I'm just like, you can't, like, here's this plant, water it every 5 days. There's so many things that could change whether you need to water that plant every 5 days or not. Like, please, if you're new, please do not listen to those things. Water your plant when it's dry, when it needs water. If it's a plant that likes a little bit more moisture, it doesn't like to dry out too much, then water it a little bit more frequently. You will get to know your specific plants, and it's really important that that learning process kind of goes forward, and you don't just start off believing everything that you see and read on the internet. And I will just say, that means not just plants, that you have to take all of the information that you're seeing with a grain of salt in regards to anything. Do your own research, do your own experiments, try things. And if it works for you, then do that. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's a really good one. And I think that's a really important one, especially for newer plant parents to understand, is that you really have to do what works best for you. You know, and plant influencers, plant content creators should be here to give you a guideline or tell you what they do. And you can kind of take pieces of that and morph it to fit your own plant care routine or your own plant care style. Thank you very much for submitting. That was a good one. Okay, the next one. This sounds like a fun one. This is from Mentha8767. This sounds like a fun one. One I can think of is pot size doesn't matter, within reason. If you use a well-draining soil, I know I will get a lot of hate for this, shrugs, and I hope you don't. I know my subscribers are sweet and lovely, and I really hope nobody gets any hate. At the same time, I would love a healthy conversation down in the comments, without, you know, trash talking anyone or anything. Anyway, sorry, I digress. The point is, the plant will grow as large as you allow its roots to grow. Leaving a plant root bound stunts its growth. This is more for the convenience than the health of the plant. Number 2, you can feed plants in the winter. Okay, so she's broken this down into 3 beefs. Okay, so let's take that first one first. So the plant pot size versus the root size of the plant. I agree. Now, what you have to remember, if you're going to plant a pot into a much larger pot than the root ball, you're going to have to rein back on water substantially, because the roots aren't going to be big enough and beefy enough to take up all the water that are in those roots. So therefore, the soil is going to stay moist for longer, and there is a higher likelihood of root rot. So if you're going to pot into a much larger pot, just keep that in mind. Make sure your light is high enough, because those things go hand in hand. If you're going to water your plants more often, the plant therefore needs more light, because that creates more energy, helps the plant grow, helps the roots grow, in which case will soak up more water. It will take more water into the plant. So when you up one, you have to up the other to a degree, obviously. But again, it's the same thing I kind of go back to with that first one. Whatever works for you. If you upsize into like a 16-inch pot and your root ball is about this big and it's working for you, that's amazing. I don't know that I personally would do that. But I tend to like wait way too long to repot plants. And, you know, a lot of the time your plants will give you a sign that they are getting a little bit root bound. One of the first things that it will start to do is most plants will start putting out smaller leaves. The plant knows that it's been restricted, and so it can't produce as much energy as it needs. Therefore, it will start to put out smaller leaves. So that's one thing that you can watch for. Now, having said that as well, that depends on the plant. There are plants that like to be a little bit more root bound, I believe, and I'm not a Hoya person, but I believe Hoyas are one of those plants that can handle, you know, being quite root bound. And I know there are a few like that. But the majority of the tropical plants, especially the ones that I keep, don't love being root bound, and you can definitely start to see signs of being root bound. So anyway, again, do what you do. And if it's working for you, then that's amazing. Okay, so let's move on to the second one. So you can feed plants in the winter, and when a plant is not well, they still need food. This I'll agree with for the most part. I don't tend to overfeed, or I shouldn't say overfeed. So if a plant isn't doing well, so I don't have any here that I can show you. So plant's like ill, it can't do all of the things that it needs to do. So I tend to rein in a little bit on the fertilizing when that happens. But I am all the way with you on board as far as feeding your plants in the winter. And this is one of those things, again, that I see on these like plant apps and stuff like that. It's like, don't fertilize through the winter. That is absolute and total, in my opinion, don't come for me, total absolute garbage. If you maintain, especially if you're an indoor plant parent, if you plant indoors, and you're keeping the same conditions throughout the year, you know, your humidity stays around the same, your light stays around the same, and actually in the winter you get a lot more light because the sun is lower in the sky. Like my living room right now, I was filming in there earlier and I had to move because the sun was coming right through, whereas in the summertime it comes up and over top of the house. So actually the winter light is absolutely beautiful and perfect for plants. Anyway, I digress. What was I talking about? Oh, so if all your conditions are the same in your home, it's still warm in your house, obviously, because you have to turn your heat on during the winter, your plants are going to continue to do the same thing that they've been doing all year if their conditions are the same. For me here, that is the case. I have my lights on a timer. They come on at the same time every morning. They turn off at the same time every day. I keep a relative humidity between 50 and 60% in my house at all times, throughout the year, all 4 seasons here in Canada. And my plants continue to grow all year. Now, with everything like that, there is those instances where, there's exceptions to the rule. There are some plants that will go dormant, that will need that rest period. But for the most part, the majority of the tropical plants that, you and I keep in our homes, they just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're keeping them indoors, it doesn't matter. Feed your plants, people. Feed your plants. Okay. The third one that Mentha says is, the distance from a window is more important than the direction the window faces. Yeah. So if you have your plant in a north-facing window, for example, and it's right close to the window and your plant is able to see a lot of the sky, that's about the same light as it's going to get pulled 3 to 4 feet back from a south-facing window. right? Does that make sense? Do you see where I'm going with that? So really the relative distance between the window or the light source and your plant is more important than what side it faces. Now, I will say also that a lot of the time the south light is way too strong for most of the plants that you and I grow. I have a lot of philodendron, and philodendron don't need super high light. Most of them don't. And so I found when I had some of my philodendrons in south facing windows and southwest facing windows, west is also gets pretty hefty. So southwest light on a philodendron, it's just it's a recipe for disaster. So if you pull that back a little bit, that matters. It's the distance that matters. So I absolutely agree with you on that one. Let me know what you guys think. That's my 2 cents on the matter. Let's see. And somebody commented here. Oh, Holly. 3B. All plants' view of the sky matters. Absolutely. Yes, it does. I agree. Wholeheartedly. Okay. The next one is from Melissa Monroe 7351, who says, in my mind, poaching is wrong, period. But I'm open to good debates. Bring it. Love that. I mean, I agree. I don't think that anyone should be going out and plucking plants from nature. You know, if it means that those plants are going to continue to thrive in the wild, I'm okay with not having them in my home. I live here in Ontario, and in Ontario we have Trillium, which is our provincial plant, I guess. And it's illegal to pick those here in Ontario because of what they are, because, you know, they're the provincial plant, I guess, or whatever. I'm pretty sure it's still illegal anyways. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been a while. Anyways, but it's beautiful to go out and see them growing in nature as they were intended. And, you know, it's going to get to the point where we're going to, in our quest of owning all of these plants in our home, there's not going to be any left in the wild. And it is okay to preserve things like that, but we want to leave those up to, you know, the botanical gardens and those types of places. So having a couple in captivity, I'm okay with, but definitely going out and just poaching plants for your own profit or your own personal collection just because you like it, that's not cool. So I completely agree. It's wrong. Don't do that. All right. Next one is from, oh, it's Holly. Holly Puckett 3921 says, drainage versus no drainage potting. Bottom watering, oh, she just rhymed off a bunch. Okay, so let's go with that one first. Drainage versus no drainage potting. Okay, so what I will say about that is, in my personal preference, I like to have a drainage hole because I'm a firm believer that you need to flush through your plant. And I've said this, I don't even know how many times on my channel. When you're watering a plant, the water needs to go all the way through to flush through the plant and, you know, give it a good soak. When you don't have a drainage hole, you can't do that. You're just, you know, topping up the moisture in the soil. And in my opinion, that's not good. When they're in nature, they have the ability to flush, right? It flushes right down into the soil and off, you know, wherever water goes after it goes into the soil. So as much as I can, and I know I've said this also before, is you want to try, or I want to try to replicate what that plant would be giving or living, the conditions it would be living in nature, and try to replicate that as much as possible in my house, which is one of those reasons why I grow specifically in soil. I don't grow in leca. I don't grow in Latuzapon, or however you say that. I don't grow in any of these other medias. Now, I know a lot of people do. One of my best friends, Paula, she grows in the other alternative mediums. It's just not my jam. I just don't. I like the soil because that's what they grow in nature. And that's my opinion. But Anyway, I digress. That went. So anyway, having said that, when you have a pot with no drainage, nothing's allowed to escape. And in my opinion, that's not ideal. But in short term, I think that would be fine. If you want to grow cacti in a pot with no drainage and just water it a little bit, once a week or so, then that's completely up to you. You just really, really, really need to watch for the signs, check your soil, things like that. So it's a good one. It's a hot topic. I like it. So the second one, bottom versus top watering. Okay. I've probably mentioned this before. And really this goes back to what I was just talking about being in nature and having things happen the way they would if the plant was out in nature. And plants don't get bottom watered in nature. They just don't. Again, I got to stick with the plants got to be flushed through. In my opinion, I feel like I keep having to say that. I'm going to try not to say that as much. You guys know it's in my opinion. If you don't know me well enough to know that by now and you're new here, then I'm sorry. I don't, I try not to tell you guys what to do. So these are all things that are, again, in my opinion. And that is definitely one of those things. I don't do bottom watering. I just don't. When you bottom water, it's not the plant that's taking up the water. It's the soil that's taking up the water and absorbing the water. So the plant's not just going to take up what it needs. And I hear that a lot. The plant will only take up what it needs. No, the plant soil will take up what it needs without any regard for the roots that are in that soil. You know what I mean? So that's my opinion on that one. Bottom watering, useless. This is going to get spicy. Okay. Fertilizing, repotting in the off season. Again, I discussed the fertilizing thing, the repotting thing, really along the same lines. If that plant is actively growing, there's no reason why you can't repot it in the winter, in my opinion. Well, she just kind of lists all kinds of stuff here. Okay. Potting directly into decorative pots versus keeping plants in nursery pots. I have never, ever, I think I have one plant in a nursery pot, which is the pot that I brought it home in. And the only reason that it's still in that pot is because I've been too lazy to repot it. And it's a black pot and it kind of looks nice where it is. So it's a decent looking nursery pot. When I bring plants home, I want to know everything there is to know about that plant, including what the roots look like. So, and I prefer to pot in my own soil. For the most part, there are some nurseries and plant shops that have great soil, and I'll usually use that. I'll either leave it in that same mixture or I'll mix that in with my current soil. So when I get a plant home, you can bet that it's immediately getting sprayed down. The soil, the leaves, the petioles, the stems, the whole shebang is getting sprayed down with my pesticide spray. And I'm also going to pluck that sucker out of that pot and check the roots and then put it wherever the hell I want, whether it's back into that pot or into another pot. And I will tell you that I have never lost a plant by doing that. Ever. Ever. So in my opinion, I don't think that matters. Again, do what you're comfortable with doing. I don't think that matters. Okay. She just like listed all of them. TC versus seed grown. I'm not. So this whole TC thing, I think TC got a really bad rep when the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma thing came in. The reason being is, so when Rhaphidophora tetrasperma first came out, I got an actual cutting from like a mother plant. It was so difficult to root. It was super tricky. This thing just struggled and then eventually died. Very, very thick leaf, very hardy until I killed it. And then quite a few months later, these tetraspermas were all throughout the stores. You could find them in grocery stores. They were in all of the nurseries. Everybody and their dog was selling these. So I was like, yay, finally I can just buy a plant. So I get this plant home. I found it a very different plant. It looked the same for the most part. The leaves were thinner. I took cuttings. They rooted like instantly. Like I'm talking like pothos quickly. And I think a lot of other people, tell me if you had this experience too. I think a lot of other people had that same experience. So that was our first, like, this is what TC is. So I think TC got a really bad rep because of that. Now, what we have to kind of rewire ourselves to remember is that it depends on, the start of that TC. So it could have been like a weaker, a sample that you got the original from. And I think that's why it's important for these growers when they do these tissue cultured plants is to make sure that the ones they're replicating are a really good, solid start. I don't know a whole lot about tissue culture, I will say that. But, you know, I've read some things, I've seen some videos on it, and in my experience, especially with the tetrasperma thing, that is kind of what I've found out. But I know a lot of plants are becoming more tissue cultured, and they are much more robust. I think it just got a bad rep because of those Rhaphidophora tetraspermas. But as far as seeds go, I honestly haven't grown a lot of plants from seed. I think the only plants that I've grown from seed are these adorable little cacti that are just like, oh, they're so cute. And my Anthurium bakeri. One of these days, one of these years, I will learn how to say that. So yeah, I think those are the only two I've grown from seed. So those if I'm thinking my old tissue culture socks mind, the ones grown in seed, in my opinion, would probably be a little bit more robust, but I'm probably wrong because I'm a little jaded from the whole RAF situation. Okay. I'm going to take a super quick break so that I can wet my whistle because I've been talking a lot today and my throat's a little dry. So I'll be right back. Okay. My whistle has been wet. Let's move on. Okay, so next one comes from Mom's Greenhouse 9306, who says, recycling soil. Some say it's a no-no. Personally, if the soil is fairly fresh and I know there were no issues, I refresh it with some worm castings and reuse it. If it's older, I recycle it into my outdoor flower beds. Yeah, I do exactly the same thing. I don't find an issue recycling soil. In fact, I do it quite frequently. Waste not, want not, in my opinion. Now, there will come a point in time, and I think that's why she mentioned the worm castings, is that the soil will eventually lose all its nutritional value, again, depending on what soil you're using. So it is good to give it a refresh with some fresh soil, some worm castings, things like that. And yeah, like this comment is spot on the money. This one is something I have said before. As long as you don't have any issues with the soil, there's no fungal growth in there, there's not pests in there. That's one of the things that you have to watch out for as well. But I mean, I've repotted plants into pots from plants that I've had. Did that make any sense? I've repotted plants into soil from other plants that have had like thrips issues and stuff. Mind you, thrips aren't a pest that are down in the soil. They're an up in the leaf plant. Now, if I had like root mealies or something like that, then it'd be a heck no. Get rid of that soil. But as long as the soil is healthy and there's no like fungus or pest issues with it, reuse that soil. Don't put it in the oven. You don't have to bake your soil. Again, my opinion, before y'all come for me, it's fine. It's fine. I think we overthink these things so often. Just don't overthink it. It's fine. I've never lost a plant because I've repotted it into different soil that I used for a different plant. Okay, that was a good one. I like that one. All right, next comes from Cricket Gem 119. Says, how about Super Thrive is overhyped? See Gardening in Canada's view on this. I recall the soil scientist said that it was more of a placebo. And another controversial thing, I think, is more healthy roots aren't everything. Many people believe that they lead to bigger leaves, healthier plants, etc. I have plants that are dying or struggling or even died with lots of white and viable roots. Mind you, a few were transfers from leca to soil. Okay, she has a long one here, so let's start at the beginning here. So Super Thrive. Now, what I did just notice is I thought that I had posted this original request for these things a couple of months before we moved. It turns out it was 10 months ago. I am so sorry. Wow. Okay, anyway. So Super Thrive, I will agree. I don't hear many people talking about Super Thrive anymore. Personally, I bought it once. It was really like stupidly expensive. I never bought it again. I didn't really notice it made much of a difference at all. And for those of you who don't know, Super Thrive is I don't even know what you want to call it. A lot of people buy it and swear by it for rooting plants, saying it gives them a better head start and things like that. Now, there's no harm in using it. It won't make things worse. But I've rooted a zillion plants without it, and they've done just fine. So I think it was really overhyped there for a while. Some people still swear by it. I'm not one of those people. And, you know, when you get into these bigger tropicals and the more expensive varieties and stuff like that, the plant care hobby can be pricey. So if you can save some money on a product that isn't going to change your world, then I would just not bother. Don't bother with it. Okay. Her next one, also, leca pond pumice mixtures and semi-hydro overhyped. Lots of plants struggle, die, or grow slowly in semi-hydro, even those with water roots that were once transferred to those mediums. Plus, they still get pests like my Monstera deliciosa and leca still got scale, and Epipremnum albo got spider mites. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack in this one. Now, I did just tell you that I'm also not a fan of leca, pond, whatever growing medium is. And Paul is going to kill me. I find it trend. I think it's a trend. I don't. Now, I know, having said that, a lot of people that grow Hoya really swear by these things, and that's fine. I'm not a Hoya grower. I'm not putting my tropical plants in leca or pond. A lot of people I did see back when this whole leca thing started a couple of years ago, where people were all gung-ho for growing in leca. One of their biggest arguments for leca, or the biggest bonus for growing in leca, was that the pest issues will be much more minimal. I disagree. I think the only one that, or the couple that you're not going to get would be root mealies, because I don't think they can live in like water. I don't know. And fungus gnats. They can't grow if there's no fungus, and fungus grows in soil. Aside from that, you're still going to get spider mites, 150%. You're still going to get thrips. You're still going to get whitefly. You're still going to get scale. So it's not the best argument to make for people who like leco. Lecco, my lecco. Sorry. Yeah, so I totally agree with that one. Fertilizing is overhyped if you grow in soil. I heard we should actually not use so much fertilizer, and some plants grow without it. Okay, this one is probably the first one that I've read that I haven't necessarily agreed with. I will agree with you that not all plants need the same fertilizer. Some plants don't need fertilizer at all. For example, Spathiphyllum or peace lilies actually don't love fertilizer. So I don't fertilize with actual fertilizer my Spathiphyllum or my peace lilies. What I will use on them though is, what's that that I use? What's it called? Oh, liquid dirt. I use liquid dirt because it's more just like nutrients and stuff for the plant. It's not technically fertilizer. And it does really, really well with that. But I made the mistake once of giving it actual fertilizer and it wasn't a fan. So I didn't do it again. But it's one of those things, you just got to try different things, right? There will be plants that like more. For example, the Philodendron Florida Ghost. It's a heavy feeder. It likes that packing the punch of that fertilizer. It likes the food. So it's just really an experimental thing, but I most definitely think that if you're growing your plants in soil, just like the plants that you would grow outside in your garden, they will thrive with fertilizer. So I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with you on that one. Fertilizer is absolutely crucial to plant growth. Sorry, not sorry. I feel bad like disagreeing with you guys, but I had to disagree with that one. Ants aren't beneficial in my experience. They seem to bring farm scale, or at least they will protect the scale on your plants. I also heard that they can get scale eggs on their legs and transfer them to plants, if that's true. I had an ant infestation, or at least I noticed a lot of them, and got scale on plants where I noticed them. So I can't really speak to this one, unfortunately. I don't grow outside, so I'm assuming you're in a location where you're growing maybe on your back patio, and I'm so jealous of you if that's the case. So unfortunately, I can't really speak to that. I've never had the need to look into it, so I'm kind of ignorant on that topic. I apologize. But yeah, if it hasn't worked for you, then definitely get rid of the ants. I don't know. I'm sorry. And her last one was Monstera deliciosa is not a beginner plant. From my experience, they get scale, also root rot. I guess it really depends. I've never had scale on anything. And I've had lots of Monstera plants, deliciosa, albos, Aureas, etc., etc., etc. I've never had scale on anything, so I don't know. Now, again, this is coming from someone who it looks like may grow outdoors, which again, I don't have a lot of experience with because I live in Canada and we have 4 very specific seasons. And so I can't really speak on that. Now, I know indoors, Monstera deliciosa typically is a fairly easy plant. They can take some high light, they can take some lower light, albeit they'll grow more slowly. And as long as you don't overwater them on a regular basis, Monstera deliciosa is a really great, in my opinion, beginner plant. Sorry. Okay, let's move along. I have so many more. I think we'll do 2 more. I think we're definitely going to have to make a part 2. But I'm losing my voice and I still have one more video to film today. So that won't be any good. I just heard a birdie outside my window. Okay. Okay, the next one. Melanie Porquez? I'm so sorry. 9728 says, some of my plants are potted in pots that are too big and I water those plants with a smaller quantity of water. I do this because I like the pot and that's all I had. I also let my begonias dry out a lot because I tend to overwater. Okay, so we did go over the plant pot situation. I think that Again, if it's, I think that if you are really, really mindful about your watering, I think it's okay. I don't necessarily think it would be a habit to get, a good habit to get into. But if you gotta do what you gotta do, then you gotta do it. You know what I mean? And then as far as begonias, oh my goodness. Begonias, depending on the begonia. I don't do Rex begonias anymore. I'm over it. I can't figure them out. I'm done. But I do have cane begonias. Actually, I only have one. Yeah, I have one right now, and it's behind me here. I don't know if you can see her. It's a begonia Sinbad. And they have beautiful leaves. I don't know if you can see her or not. And those will take a decent drying out. Reason being is they have a more like trunk-like stem. It's much tougher and stronger, so it holds more water in there, so they can take a little bit more of a drought scenario. Yeah, so with those guys, for sure. Rex begonias, nothing made those happy. For me, I just couldn't do it. Okay, the next one, and the last one for today, because I'm going to lose my voice. Oh, here we go. This one actually makes my blood boil because of some of the extreme opposite opinions I see online. So I may get a little sassy on this one. So, flying by the seat of my plants, 12. Oh my God, I love that name. That's so awesome. Flying by the seat of my plants. I like it. Taking parts of plants that fall or break off plants is stealing. Okay. I saw somebody the other day post that there was actually like a group on Facebook dedicated to stealing plant cuttings from plant nurseries, box stores, whatever. There is a special place in hell for people who steal from plant nurseries and steal anything like that. Especially where a plant, you know, people put time and effort into growing these things. And even a big box store, stealing is stealing. Theft is theft. You wouldn't go in there and pick up a pair of socks that fell on the floor because they fell on the floor and weren't on the shelf anymore, right? Like, why would you do that with a plant? If you want that cutting that has fallen on the floor, just ask somebody. Ask somebody so you can put your head on your pillow at night and feel good about who you are as a person. Right? Like, I consciously couldn't do that and feel good about myself. And then look my children in the eye and tell them stealing is bad. You know what I mean? I totally agree with you. Theft is theft, whether it's a plant or a cutting or whatever. Ask. A lot of places will be like, absolutely, if it's on the floor, it's fair game, it's yours. Great. At least you can feel good about yourself walking away from that scenario. So often lately, I've seen videos of like people in plant shops. I saw one the other day of this woman who was standing at like a plant shelf, and she's pulling her sleeves down a little bit so nobody can see what she's doing. And she's actually like breaking pieces off of these plants. And these weren't like pothos and things like that. These were like more expensive varieties. Like it was, I think the one was like a Standeliana variegata, and I don't remember what the other one was. But I'm just like, the balls. Like, who the hell do you think you are? Right? Ask around. Try to find somebody who has a cutting for you that maybe you could swap for. And you know what? If they don't, learn a little bit of patience. You can wait. Nobody is that special or important that you think that that's okay. That you can do that and it's fine. It's not fine. It's stealing. You're a shitty person. I said what I said and I'm not sorry. Anyway, plant theft is wrong. Whether it's somebody's garden center, or somebody's plant store. Period. Okay. That was a good one to leave on. Now I'm all fired up. And I need a lozenge or something. Okay. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was a little long, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and I have a lot more where that came from because boy, did you guys come with the tea this time. So maybe I'll go ahead and film. Maybe this coming weekend I'll film another 2 episodes of this, and then you guys can let me know if it's something that you guys want to see again. I would love to see some really great healthy discussions in the comments. You know, like I said, everybody has their differing opinions on things, and if you guys disagree with me, that's completely fine. Totally cool. You do what you gotta do. Boo. Okay. I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for liking and watching and commenting and subscribing. If you're not subscribed already, please consider doing so. It is a huge help for my channel. I really do appreciate it. It means the world to me that there are so many people who come back and watch my videos and believe in the things that, you know, that I'm sharing here with you, and like listening to all my ranty, rambly shenanigans and my quirky, ridiculous sense of humor. But I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you so much. So I hope you have an amazing and wonderful day, night, week, month, and year. I love y'all to bitty bits, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Bye.